Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Shipwreck Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Ship. It's been another adventurous week, as always. Happy to be here. Happy y'all are here to join me today. We got a good show in store for us. This is really going to be a lot of videos today. It was a good episode, a good podcast that I watched over the weekend about with Amanda Seals going against 20 different conservatives that I think will be good to talk about today. Last night, our president, whether we like to say it or not, had us wondering: was slavery a good thing? Was it a bad thing? With one of his tweets. And then lastly, I wanted to address to me, which I think is unlawful, the detainment of a Texas House representative from leaving the chambers without permission of the who is he? The leader of the House, the House Speaker, and there in Texas. So we got a little action-packed show today. We already got some guests that's ready to come on. Let's bring them on and let's see how we doing today. Ronnie, how we doing today, my brother?
What's good? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. How you doing today?
Okay, you got to do the audio and make sure we good to go, bro.
How you doing?
Oh man, I'm great. I'm alive. I'm kicking. Get to spend another day on the podcast with my brother out here getting the word out to the people. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing excellent. So we got our other brother on here, Joel. Welcome back to the couch once again. Welcome back, shipmate. Literally and figuratively. Can you hear us?
I can. Thanks for having me.
I got you. Welcome. So this one is I got some videos that are kind of long-winded. Usually I don't do really long videos, but some of these I just felt like because I know we couldn't, everybody didn't get a chance to watch the Amanda Seals thing and everything. So I tried to splice it up and break it up some. And hopefully we can get a gist of what happened. I would still encourage everybody, and I can put it in the show notes for everybody to go and take a look at the video in and of itself. It's about an hour and a half long. So I try to cut it down to really about 15 minutes worth of stuff. And it really was eye-opening just to see these young black conservatives and their train of thought. And I didn't say they were all young either. And so that's the first thing we want to talk about. Like I said, the second thing I wanted to talk about was what Trump wants to do to the Smithsonian with the African American Museum and Culture Museum. And then lastly, excuse me, y'all. Then lastly, talk about what's going on in the Texas House, where the House Representative young lady was not allowed to leave the premises without permission and a police escort, which to me seems very unlawful. But so how was your week so far, Joe?
It's good, just the usual grind. A little tired, as I intimated to you before, but I'm here for it, ready to contribute to the best of my ability and hear the opinions of my brothers and sisters.
All right, so let's go. Let's get the first one started. I'm gonna play this. Like I said, I try to spice it up as much as I could, but I try to get some of the good parts, and then I have two different videos with Amanda, and so let's get this show started.
Hey, I am surrounded by 20 black conservatives. My first claim is it is undeniable that reparations are just and necessary.
Whenever there's a real thing that this country wants to do, they do it. Stop Asian hate. Okay, there's a problem with the Asian hate. Let's draft a bill, sign it, and it's done. Anything that needs to be done is done. With us, it's a carrot they dangle in front of us that they don't really want to do. And it's not going to help. We need education. Oh, it's not going to help. No, it's not. We need education. Getting a check from the government is not going to do that. And we need proper education. A lot of us go to these institutions where we're not really prepared, we're not really focused, and we don't get things that'll help us in the real world. So if you want to help black people, a check from the government, from our tax dollars is going to get raised, because let's be clear, everybody in here is black. We all American. We all got to pay taxes. it'll go to that. So I don't really see how this is going to help us at all.
Here. I disagree that reparations are necessary. I think the most important thing that's necessary right now for the Black community would be the stopping of violence, especially Black on Black violence. I don't see how reparations is going to solve anything. You can give everyone here like a $50,000 check, especially people that are in the streets who are committing violent crimes consistently. A $50,000 check, it's not going to fix anything. It's not going to increase the median household income in the next 10 years by 10% or 20%. For example, we have the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. We prevented Chinese people from getting citizenship and even entering the country. We discriminated against them and basically put them under apartheid, even here in the United States. Yet they have the highest median household income. How is that possible? How come they don't complain and feel entitled consistently to beg for reparations and beg for this when they are killing each other 90% of the time, which is the rate that Black people kill each other, according to the FBI?
Oh, young Matt.
Yet white people are the oppressors.
I'm not sure where your education came from, but they lied to you. Lie all the time. One, comparing Chinese people who are immigrants that made a choice to come to the United States and comparing the continued effort of Black people to ground themselves in a nation that continues to make impediments for them to show and live and exist in their true citizenship is a false equivalency.
I don't believe that happens at all. No one here is in.
Are you
being
acting
impinged on
right now?
anything.
Do you
I'm
really
not, I'm
believe
telling
this?
the truth. There's no systemic racism that I've experienced here in America. What system is racist? I think the only racism we've actually seen recently, systemic racism that we've seen, is the application of systemic racism against white people. The University of Western.
I just wanted to stop right there. The young man said the only systemic racism that he's seen was systemic racism against white people. Joe, would you like to comment on that?
This is not an area of my strength. I think that's insane. This is one of these situations. I don't understand where some of these people are getting their concepts from. To not be able to recognize all the systems that have been put in place to impede our success is just willful ignorance. It's willful ignorance trying to be respectful. It is pointless for me to elaborate. I mean, it's pointless for me to try to even go down that rabbit hole, pointing out how ignorant that perspective is. This is insanity. The history of this country, shows that there is inherent, baked in racism. And we had a different mentality in the past. Sure. Every time they wouldn't let us do something, we had to create our own. Yeah. We couldn't play in Major League Baseball. When that was the national pastime, we created our own league. Mm-hmm. When they wouldn't educate us, we had to create our HBCUs. At one time it was illegal to educate us. Mm-hmm. And the redlining, the examples that even she gave in some of that video, like this, it's blatant. So, Bobby, it's insanity to sit there and to really even try to debate that. It's stupid. It's just stupid. We're suffering. And like he said, okay, you can talk about the Asian Americans. Okay, so the Asian Americans, they were disenfranchised at a time, specifically the Chinese. They came over and built the railroad in droves, etc. Mm-hmm. After that, name the variety of efforts that were made. Yeah. Name the laws that were made that were meant to keep them impoverished, to keep them uneducated, and to prevent them from being able to succeed in this country. Now we can talk about all the efforts that were made for African Americans. So that's just stupidity. Yeah. Ronnie, before we continue on, do you have anything to add so far? Did you get a chance to watch the whole thing? I know I just sent it to Joe.
Yeah, I watched that. I actually watched that before. And I was like, oh, okay. So I already knew where this is going. But here's my perspective, right? And I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I just want to do the spin on this, right? I think we kind of talk about this a lot with our children, mm-hmm. right? Right. His mind is how old is this kid? Mind.
I don't think he ever said, but he's probably in his 20s. That's safe to say in his 20s.
Right. He's early 20s. Now go back 20 years from now, or go back 20 years, not even go back 20 years, really only go back maybe 15. You know what I'm saying? Because at the first 5, they don't remember what's going on in society. They kind of do it around 5 years old, because that's about the time they go to school, right? So he only really got 15 years of some type of experience, and that's really about it. Does that make,
Yeah,
does
well,
this make sense?
and in this kid's case too, I want to also add, and because I had to cut this out of the video, that he's from his parents was born. Actually, he was born as well in Angola, and he grew up in Maine. So he inherently doesn't understand the African American struggle in this country.
Correct. Right. So that's the perspective I'm trying to like to spin this on a little bit, not to get on the kid too much, but you got to see where his mindset, where his mind frame is too. So a lot of us, and we do this with our kids a lot. Like, man, our kids aren't going to really understand what we're trying to tell them. Because I say this a lot. Their RAM, the size of their RAM for the computer people out here, it's not big enough to understand what we know in 50 years. To cram it into this 18, 19, 21-year-old kid's mind is impossible. It scrambles the whole thing. So in his defense, he probably grew up, if they left Angola to grow up in Connecticut, which is
Maine, even Maine, yeah.
Well, Maine, one of the expensive places,
people.
right? So he can see up in Maine that them cats out there hunting, they taking, you know what I'm saying? He can see that they taking the forest away. He can see all that stuff from that perspective, only because he only see that. You know what I'm saying? So I can kind of get him, but for her, she was like, yeah, I could. So before she, you know what I mean, delve into like in the possibility of his mindset, it is his mindset. You can't tell it isn't. You know what I'm saying? You just gotta look at the perspective of it.
I got something. I got something. I like what my brother is saying. His age, so he can look at all the progress that has been made. He can look at the progress that has been made, and he can sit there and say, my reality and my experience does not indicate that. And you're right. He grew up in an isolated environment where there were 1.3 African Americans total. So you have a perspective where there has been progress has been made. So you can't, but that's what disturbs me. You're not intelligent enough to be a student of history and still recognize all the systems that were put in place to disenfranchise African Americans. So 1964, Topeka versus Board of Education. Why were we still segregated if racism didn't exist and it wasn't baked in? And even then, you talk about, like she mentioned, we could talk about the fact that education is still not equal. It's based, school funding is based on property taxes, and our environments are abnormally suppressed. This is insane. It's a brand new, it's a boys of summer. You grew up in Disneyland, so that's all you've known and seen. But us who've lived in different environments and have seen the suppression, how about the introduction of crack cocaine into our communities? Why were we targeted? You know, you want to peddle all these narcotics in our communities. What do you mean racism doesn't exist? This is just stupidity. I'm done.
Yeah. And she gets into the part when you talked about the property taxes and how you have less funding for schools because they kept our property taxes down. And on top of that, they kept our appraisals down. She went into when, if it was a black family, the appraiser appraised it at 300,000. But if it was a white family, took all the black stuff down and had the same appraiser come back or have another appraiser come back out. Now it's $500,000 because they put stuff that made it look like the people who own the house was white. I mean, that was just systematic stuff that people did that maybe even wasn't systematic to the point where it was the government doing it, but it was individuals and had that mindset to continue to keep us down. So I'm gonna continue on with this. Anybody that's watching, if you want to join the pod, I'll put the link into the up on the show notes already in the chat. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Facebook, go to YouTube and like and subscribe, please, as well, and watch it on there. But here we're going to continue on. We got a lot more to go.
Has been trying to segregate dormitories, using black-only dormitories because black people feel safer amongst each other. But they're more likely to kill each other than white people are ever to kill them. That's just the truth. You have King Von rapping about killing other black men. Why should I think that the white man is the oppressor?
On the basic level, we have to understand that systemic racism is grounded in the realities that black people have not been considered an equal human being in this country since its onset. So there's simply no way to make the argument that there isn't systemic racism, and we have seen in very clear ways the system operate in an organically racist way. Do not cut me off. When we talk about systemic racism, we can start with even the fact that redlining, which was implemented to discriminate black communities. Are you shaking your head that redlining doesn't exist?
No, I'm saying I don't think it really existed at all. I mean, no, I don't think so at all.
So it does exist. And stating that it doesn't exist doesn't make it no longer exist. Redlining absolutely exists. It is not something that's being made up. It's an empirical fact. And there are realities that exist because of redlining. We know that school systems are related to the way that property taxes are affecting the school systems. If a school system is not getting the same property value as the property taxes allow it, then it's not going to have the same efficacy at allowing for students to be able to get what they deserve.
Then
if you want to
stop them from entering prisons.
How are you going to stop people from entering prisons if
educating
your goal is to get them into prison?
Sure, make them try to be more like Ben Carson than be like King Von. That's very, very...
Conservatives believe in hard work. We believe in going to work and working for what you got, not asking for handouts from people who never had slaves. Some of the people that you're asking for money from never had slaves. And let's talk about the fact there were also black people that had slaves. So if you want to talk about that, how is that fair? If I'm a white person and my family fall on the side of the Union, why should I have to pay for slaves when this whole country was never all racist?
You are more interested in preserving the fairness of those who didn't have slaves than the fairness of those who are the descendants of slaves. That is priority to you than finding a fair way to accommodate those who have been the descendant of slaves.
Well, our ancestors wasn't asking for handouts. They were asking for equal opportunity. And we have equal opportunity in this country. We had a black president, just in case you didn't know. We had a black president and we had a black vice president. I mean, I think she was black. They said she was black. I don't know. So Barack Obama is the product of white people. So let's get off this thing where, oh, America is so racist. What's making America so racist is people that continue to talk about racism and continue to focus on racism instead of focusing on unity and bringing our country forward. People that have this liberal mindset are infecting our communities, black people, and making us victims and not victors. It's a lie. White supremacy is a lie.
No, sir, that's simply not true.
There's no such, I mean,
if that were not the case, then we wouldn't see the continued effort of colonialism and white people placing themselves in positions of power when they do not have the power.
Because their culture, black culture, is toxic. I
got to stop it right there. So this brother is 33 years old. He says white supremacy is a lie. And the reason why their white folks are ahead of black folks is because of their culture. We, as black folks, have a toxic culture. Who want to go?
Well, two things.
I go
first,
ahead,
brother.
This is for me. I'm sorry for interrupting. This is super easy for me, right? I said this 100 times. People lie, numbers don't, right? Y'all gonna hear me say that a lot, right? He is one of those people that numbers are so small that they don't. I mean, they can be. You're gonna have at the numbers that we have. It's impossible for everybody to be on the same wave. It's just impossible, right? You do have some people that are way far right, and some people that swings all the way to the left. Some people are just gonna be. You're not gonna convince them right away until it directly affects them. He's probably never seen it. You know what I'm saying? In his life. You know what I mean? He has the possibility. He has the possibility to never have seen anything that I've seen or when any one of us seen in the city. He might have been shown. We don't know his background. He might have been one of them elite kids that we don't know about that never saw this stuff. You know what I mean? Like they don't advertise that stuff where the elite kids are. I don't know who this kid is, this guy is. So I can see where his mind could be, but his numbers are so little that he's outshined by people like us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I have to disagree. I think we all have seen it. Now he may have dismissed it. I think he may have dismissed it. Because I think even the brother that we had on the pod, before has dismissed other episodes of racial, racism, but it has been seen. I don't think any black person that have reached the age of their 30s haven't seen racism. They may have dismissed it or may not have looked at it as racism, but they have experienced or seen it at some point in time. Joe, what would you like to say?
I think two things can be true. I think I do think that there is a significant element of our culture that is toxic, but I also think that's a byproduct. That is a byproduct of a carefully constructed plan that's been effective. You pump, you suppress economic opportunities in a community, you create toxicity. You introduce narcotics and poison into a community, you produce toxicity. So sure, there are elements of our culture that are toxic. That part can be true. But let's look at why. Let's open up that context and understand why. And then, and in the other sense, you could talk about. I mean, he said that he doesn't believe in white supremacy, or that wasn't it. That's not a thing. Well, I would say that Europe colonized the world. I mean, they literally touched every continent with the attempt to dominate, extract resources, and make their home continent rich. They were successful in doing that. The Chinese, the Indians, both 1.3 billion people populations, they didn't do that. Japanese, once they became opened up, I think 1854, and Commodore Perry went and opened up Japan, forced them to open up their country. They saw the need. They saw the need to industrialize and expand their military opportunity. I mean, their military power, because they recognized that under the shogunate they were powerless. And what did they do? So we say 1854, and then they started World War II. They were an expansionist, European-minded military power, and they sought to dominate their neighbors. But that all came from Europeans. I mean, I believe that, they were copying those what they consider to be successful. So the fact that Europeans have effectively colonized every continent would scream that they did have the mindset and of attempting to be. They had the mindset of being supreme, and that was the guiding motivation for their actions.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Again, anybody, if you're watching, like to join, the link is in the link is it's pinned up in the comment section on YouTube.
Culture
and
is toxic. We have produced a culture that is toxic. And let's get on the fact that there's no fathers in the black home. Let's talk about that.
Stop.
Let's talk about that.
Stop.
Let's talk about that.
None of this is gonna work if y'all are just gonna sit here and make up shit.
It's
not gonna work. No, a debate has to be in facts.
You're
you
putting
are
off
literally
emotional liberalism.
I am not putting off emotional liberalism. You're putting off unfounded lies based in conservatism. My next claim is that black on black crime is a result of underinvestment and over-policing.
There's also a positive correlation in the black community of absentee fatherism being one of the root causes leading into criminality. Black males that grew up without a father are 10 times more likely to engage in criminal activity. And so I think
Can I put a pin right there and ask you a question?
Ask me whatever you like.
What is the root cause of there being less fathers present?
Bad decision making on the part of the fathers. We live in a patriarchal system. Like it or not, men have dominated the socioeconomic, economic, and political power of this country and the world since our existence. So our bad decision-making, especially when we focus on the black community, is the root cause of fatherlessness.
What type of decisions?
Not marrying the women we decide to lay down and have children with. Not being careful with the seeds that we plant in women. No woman can get pregnant without a man planting his seed inside of her. So therefore...
So it's marriage.
Well, that's a part of it.
Why was there less black on black crime?
Because we needed to live together. We had to stick by each other. We had to stick
What
by
was
each
there
other.
also less of?
I'm not sure where you're leading. That's a leading question.
So essentially, when we were living in our own communities, we were also policing our own communities. So we were not being used as statistics in the same way to determine how resources were provided to our own community.
All right, that's the one I have so far for that one. And I have anything to add? Any else to that before I play this next one? It's about 4 minutes long. This next one.
For what he just said?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I'm good.
No.
Okay. This next one just blew my mind. This one.
So you can sit here and show me whatever you want.
No.
Go ahead.
Bobby, do you disagree with some of what he's saying? That is part of the problem in the African American community?
I think fathers not being there is obviously a part of is a problem in the African American community. All of us right here on this pod right now are very, very, very involved with our children's lives. Of course, not having fathers there is a problem. Absolutely. But I think it goes to, like you just said, it's a lot of reasons why those fathers
Facts. We
aren't
start
there.
expounding on why we're in that situation. That's the thing. So they state these facts, or they state these statistics, they state these theories, but you're not
Mhm.
taking the context. Let's talk about why that is the case. So it
Why?
can be
Yeah.
true, but why is that the case? And it's not the case in some of these other
Yeah.
communities, you know? So
Yeah. And she dives a lot more into it. Like I said, I'm trying to cut it down because it was an hour and a half long, and I can't. We'll be on here just watching TV the whole time, and I didn't want to do that. So I wanted to kind of cut it up some and just more to spark our interest and get our talk on. But I just wanted to listen to this brother right here just for a minute. He is he's actually running for Congress and he as a Republican, and he's running for Congress, and and I will say about Amanda, she doesn't consider herself a Democrat. She considers herself a radical. She thinks both parties are not good, but she also understands that the Republican Party is inherently worse than the Democratic Party. But not to say the Democratic Party is the end all to be all by no stretch of the imagination. But let me
So
play this
you can
next
sit
one.
here and show me whatever you want.
No. The only reason why I was going to show you this is because
Because even with that Constitution, we weren't even humans. When they wrote it.
So that was another fact check I wanted to kind of fact check before, but I couldn't say anything. But the 3/5 compromise had nothing to do with your 3/5 of a person. The 3/5 compromise had to do with representation in Congress. So there's a little note here if you open this.
The 3/5 compromise said that the Southern slaveholders needed to be represented fairly in Congress. And because there was so many more slaves than actual white people in the South, they were allowed to count their slaves as representation, even though those slaves did not have the ability to vote.
If we were at that time, let's say the 3/5 compromise never happened, we were a whole person as in light of the government, right? If that happened, then this America would not be the America that you know today. Because what it was is, if it was, we were counted as
You're defending the 3/5 compromise,
Can you
bro.
just listen? Can you listen?
Yeah.
No, listen for a second.
Okay.
Because I don't want you to get mischaracterized what I'm saying, okay?
Okay.
Slavery was wrong. It was absolutely disgusting and immoral thing.
Okay.
I have nothing good to say about that. But the 3/5 compromise, if you counted a person who was a slave as a whole person at that time,
Yes.
most of the slaves were held in the south of the Mason-Dixon
I
line,
just
right?
said that, yeah.
So what would happen is they would have more representation in Congress, and thus those laws that were, by the abolitionists, those would have been gone. Okay, so that would have gave the South more power to do the things that they couldn't do. So that's why they said the 3/5 compromise, because then if it's 3/5 compromise, they don't get that power. But of course they're people, so they have to say something, and that's where this came into play. Because if it wasn't for that, this country would have looked a lot differently.
So you're suggesting that it was okay for slaves' bodies to not only be used for labor, but also used to empower those who are harming them to be fairly represented in government?
I think it's absolutely, they should have been used, period.
Okay,
I think it was
so then we agree on that.
Yeah,
so we agree on that.
It was absolutely abhorrent. There's no excuse for it. There's no
So
justification
then
for it.
where's the argument? Because ultimately, when there was an opportunity in Reconstruction for there to be equality and humans considered in a real way and protected,
Democrats torched it. Andrew Johnson.
yes, as well as the Supreme Court. That's actually more important. What we have to acknowledge. The Supreme Court torched it. The Supreme Court has actively, throughout this entire existence of this nation, been at the forefront of impeding any advancement, and it ends up sending us back over and over and over again because it doesn't have term limits. Because it doesn't have term limits. It's not elected. It's appointed, and ultimately they have made it abundantly clear that they pick and choose when it's the states that are going to have rights and when they're going to be in a federal position of precedence.
Well, that has to do with the supremacy clause. So the supremacy clause.
That's basically it. I was floored by him defending the 3/5 compromise. I think when I think of Black conservatives, I honestly feel like they think that they're smarter than Black folks that vote for the Democratic Party. I honestly believe that. I think that they.
No, I want you to
Go
finish,
ahead.
but I
Go
just
ahead.
want to let you know I got something to say.
Yeah. That's how I believe. I believe that they think that they're smarter than us. They think that we have a victim mentality, victimhood mentality, that we're still on the plantation. Those are the key ones that you hear a lot. But in actuality, I think Black conservatives are the ones that we're looking at like you're an idiot. You have no idea what you're talking about. Whether it's the history or whether it's now. But go ahead. What
Well,
you
I
had
think
to
that
say?
I think that he made a point. He made a point which I wouldn't want to dismiss. I believe he's saying that if they would have counted all the slaves as one whole, then the South would have
Oh,
had a lot more representation and would have been able to affect. They would have had a lot more representation in Congress. They'd have had more seats in Congress, and they would have been able to dominate the legislature and enact laws that would have been more harmful to us. So that's why it's a
mhm.
compromise. So clearly,
I,
clearly, during that time period, I'm struggling because I'm exhausted, as you know. I told you ahead of time, but
yeah.
clearly, oh man. I lost my thought.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you. Ronnie, you got anything?
For me, he made a great point about it. It was a great point from his perspective, right? Again,
Mhm.
you can look at it. It does specifically say it was because of the compromising population that didn't want to owe 10 for 10. Instead of that, we'll give you 7
Yeah.
for 10. That way we don't get out counted. You know what I'm saying? To mess up what we got going
Mhm.
on up in here in the south, up in the north. I mean, what was the mindset on that? Was it to make money? No, it was really for them to know how much money they was gonna get their money. I mean, how much money they was gonna tax them cats back then. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
and like he said, was the less representation anyway that was gonna happen up in Congress. So I mean, I can see the point that he made. I can really see it.
Freeing of the
Okay.
slaves,
All right.
freeing of the
Go
slaves
ahead.
was a byproduct of the Civil War. That was not the motivation of the Civil War. That's where I'm
No.
going.
What?
Right.
So it's a byproduct of the Civil War and not a motivation of the Civil War. So even at that time, they were politicking, and the North was seeking to ensure that they maintain. It's no different than gerrymandering now. They were seeking to ensure that they
Right.
maintained power. So
Mhm.
his point, sure, there was some benefit. There was a byproduct benefit to the 3/5 compromise, but it also speaks volumes to the
Mhm.
fact that you just weren't even considered an entire human being. And even if you, but it was
Yeah.
really all just politics. The Republicans gerrymander, well, both sides gerrymander. The Democratic Party is significantly larger than the Republican Party, but yet the Republican Party is able to wield a lot more power than they would if they were just represented by their membership. So, so it's the
Yeah.
same thing. At the time, the North was seeking to carefully construct an agreement that enabled them to maintain power also. So I can understand what the brother is saying. There's some truth to it. There was a pro and a con. That's what it is. There was a pro and a
Yeah.
con to
Yeah.
it.
I agree. I got one last one to do, and then we're gonna move
Oh
on
wait,
to
I
our
just want
next.
to make this
Go ahead.
point made first.
Go ahead.
But either one of them, like irregardless if his point made sense to the Southern people or not, we still didn't get any representation back then. So it don't matter what
Mm.
number we were, 3/5,
Yeah.
5/5, 4/5, 1/5. It didn't really matter. We were not. That's the
Absolutely.
whole point behind. I needed to get that point of it out, and I agree with
Absolutely.
you. I didn't agree with his. I could see his point, right? Don't what I mean?
Mhm.
His point is his point. It makes sense on paper, but the ultimate thing is what it was is they still didn't freaking represent. They didn't do anything for him. They actually made it worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what that's the whole 3/5 of height. Damn, you can't even count me as a whole person, and I don't even get a count anyway. So what does it really matter? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's my point. I just wanted to get that put out there first before we
All right.
move on.
Okay. Let me play this next one.
As well as higher level employment because we know about disenfranchisement.
All right, there you go.
Hi.
Hi, Layla.
Nice to meet you.
Nice
I'm
to meet
Layla.
you.
I would actually argue that the Black working class is failing themselves. Wouldn't you agree that, in order to get a job, in order to qualify for a certain position and an education system at a job, wouldn't you argue that it should be based off of qualifications and not your race or identity?
I've never argued that. I've never argued that to not be
I
the
know
case.
that you were saying that you would argue that it should be equal, right? So you're saying that there should be Black Americans in education systems, in jobs, but wouldn't you argue that they should be qualified for those positions and not just placed there because of their skin color?
I've never disapproved that.
Okay, so let's say...
That's not what DEI is.
Okay.
Do you know that?
Well, I'm not talking about DEI right now. Well,
because you're suggesting that I suggested that somebody should get a job just because they're Black. And I've never asserted anything like that.
I mean, I understand that you may not say that exactly, but a lot of the claims are, you know, they're pointing to that.
No, it's not pointing to that.
Okay.
And so that is that I need to clear this up because it's a really important point.
Okay.
We live in a nation that has actively pedestaled white people. Can we all agree on that? That we
in the past,
we can't.
in the past,
in the
but
past,
not currently,
in the past.
but not currently.
So okay, fair. Okay, so how many Black people are part of this administration's cabinet?
I'm not sure. Can you tell me? Can you fill me in?
Zero.
Who?
Got one.
Who?
So seems like there may be a couple.
That's not a cabinet.
One, Ryan Hurd.
Scott
Give him his
Turner.
Oh, no,
urban.
it's two now. We got the pedophile.
So we got two.
So there are.
So we got two.
Can we also-
We got two. So back to your point. DEI is about expanding.
Oh yes. Okay.
Not lowering credibility.
Okay.
So if we have a system that has very actively said these particular people are the best people simply because of their race, DEI said, or their gender.
Okay.
Because DEI mostly leveled up white women.
Okay. So it would be incorrect if it's, you know, if we're pointing toward this, you know, a majority of race is qualified because of the skin, the base of their skin color.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whether they're white, Black. I mean, race is fake anyway.
Now, I do want to touch on a point that you did mention earlier, that you would argue that, you know, Black people have less opportunities in America. I do not agree with that. I have not had, you know,
first of all, you're a light-skinned woman,
and so are you.
Yes,
and you're doing great for yourself.
Yes, and so colorism really does serve us.
I do want to say, why do you think that is, though? Why do you think that? Do you think it's just based off the color of our skin, or do you think it's based off of the reputation that Black people make for themselves?
What reputation are Black people making for themselves?
What would you argue? Because I mean, when I look at
who makes the reputation for Black people?
Let's look at music, for example.
We already had this conversation with somebody else.
Well, we're gonna have it again. Most of the people that
are we?
Most of the people.
I'm gonna shut it down right now and let you know that the reality is that when you come to Black music, for you to say most of the people, you've already lost the argument.
Am I right?
There is no most of the people with Black people because you haven't heard of all of Black music.
Most of the music that is, let's say, maybe exalted or shown by the media, right?
And who controls those systems?
It defiles Black Americans. But who's putting it out there? We are Black. We're the ones putting it out there.
The distribution systems that are putting them out there are owned by white people.
Who listens to them? Because I can bet you most of my friends, my Black friends that are not conservative, they listen to that music that defiles their bodies.
You know
that
who
talks
else
about Black on Black crime and
everybody
it's a good
else.
thing.
But if we don't acknowledge that they are not in the same way pursuing white voices talking about the same thing, even though they are. We simply like to start at the branches of a tree and not at the root. We have to understand that the media is king. Okay, media is king,
and media does not favor conservatism. I can tell you that right now. I mean, look at the protests right now in Los Angeles.
Depending on who is in office, media does favor them.
I mean, we have Trump in office right now, and media is not favoring Trump at all.
Media is absolutely not favoring Trump in certain spaces because Trump is also not favoring that particular type of media. But it depends on the day, and we have to acknowledge that regardless of whether you talk conservatism or not, media has never favored Black people at any point.
All right, guys, that's time. You've been voted out.
Thank you.
Please return
At
to
any
your seat.
point.
Thank you. I'm back.
You back?
So let's talk about facts. I just want to move back to systemic racism because you mentioned systemic racism earlier. I just want to look at 3 applications of systemic racism against white people and against East Asians as well. So for example, we have the National College Detainment Network, which defines affirmative action or even race-conscious admissions as taking race as one of the factors in whether or not you're going to admit a student. And we noticed that when race-conscious admissions was out of it, Black enrollment dropped 64%. At UC Berkeley. And that is an act of systemic racism. Trying to look at people's races and allow them into colleges whether or not they're of a set race is racism. And it's race conscious. And Martin Luther King's most famous quote is that he doesn't want his children to be judged based on race, but by the content of their character. And the content of people's characters also includes merit. We have another example of systemic racism. Burgess Owens. He's a representative out of Utah. He's a Black Republican representative. He called out the MIT president for having Black-only dormitories. I mean, what does that mean? Why are we trying to segregate each other and say that black people feel safer amongst black people, when the truth is they're actually more in danger when they're around black people. And that's unfortunate. It's sad that I'm saying this, but it's the case, and I have to say it because it's true, okay? Black people are killing each other at a vast, crazy rate. Black men rapping about it. It's savagery. It's barbaric, and we shouldn't be doing it as a people. We should try to get more Ben Carsons. Ben Carson's cousins were murdered when he was younger, but his mother came to him and gave him a book and told Ben Carson to read and study to not be like his cousins. And Ben Carson separated two twins at the back of the head, and he's known as one of the best renowned neurologists or neuroscientists that we've ever seen, right?
Ben Carson said that slaves were immigrants.
Well, they were brought here to the United States, and many of them were slaves, and we know that to be a fact.
What is the difference between someone being an immigrant and being a stolen person?
I mean, I understand that many people were stolen here, but 90% of historians agree that slavery would have not been possible if black slave owners within Africa didn't sell off their people. White people didn't show up and just start stealing people. They didn't do that. That's not how that worked.
They literally did that.
But they didn't. They worked with black owners and
the
Arabs.
They literally did that.
It's funny,
and Arabs did that as well. And I think it's very important. And I think it's important to note that there is an oversimplification of history as well as of black people in Africa. There's a failure to acknowledge that in Africa, black people did not consider themselves black people. That was a racial distinction that was solely created by white oppressors to legitimize slavery.
Arab oppressors, actually, because the Arabs did it in the 7th century. They were the first ones.
They did not name it under blackness. They simply just decided we're going to go and have enslavers. This was a decision that was actualized and then tried to be pushed forward through eugenics. Literally, there was an executive order that was passed a few months ago that said that Donald Trump wants to now control the museums because he wants to take back control of the narrative around race. And in one of these museums that they cited was that there was a display that speaks about race not as a biological thing, but as something that has just been created as a social construct. And he stated that that is an incorrect expression of race, that race is biological.
But it is biological. Like, let's look at our phenotypical traits, the nose differences, the hair texture. It's a biological thing.
Oh,
sure, there's a social concept, but there's biological differences that exist.
You're very convicted in your lack of information around these things. Race and ethnicity are two different things, okay? Ethnicity is where you're from. Race is literally something that was created to put people into categories of caste, to put people into categories of oppression. Race is not something that you are. Race is something that was bestowed and put upon you.
That's racism, not race. Race is simply the aggregation.
Race is literally something that was created and put upon you. And I want you to listen to me as somebody who has studied this, who has a master's in African American Studies from the Institute for Research in African American Studies at Columbia University. I want you to understand very clearly that race is not something that is biological. There is literally
look at us. Look at the differences.
There is many differences that are equated to ours that has nothing to do with race.
Melanin content is not biological at all.
So if you have a black parent and you have a white parent, and now you come out looking white, how is that a biological proof of your race?
Most of them come out having curly hair.
Stop. There's no most of them. You do not have anything to prove that.
You're mixed race too.
I am not mixed race. My mother is black and my father is black.
Well, my father is also considered black, but he's very much has a lot of European DNA. And
you know what I think? I think that you are at a phase of your learning where you are a contrarian. And I look forward to seeing your development because I have a feeling that you're actually going to flip the script eventually because you are somebody that definitely is grounded in wanting to learn facts and wanting to learn the truths of things. However, you're currently still stuck in an indoctrinated space that is tricking you into thinking that you are something that you are not. You are a black person who is literally having to receive the results of racism, but ultimately you are of an ethnicity that has thrived in spite of it. And that is where we really exist from. And that is where our resilience comes from in spite of systemic racism.
I think we're...
All right, I'm gonna just stop it there. And Joel, I'm gonna give it to you because this is exactly what you were talking about earlier when we was on the phone earlier about so
already.
How do you feel about what you just read?
Well, I mean, they were debating two different. He just refused to acknowledge the fact that race is a social construct and ethnicity is something that's real. It is. I can't stand it. It's one of the most rude. Even though she uses the term, as you know, that I'm starting to abhor it. Because it tells us actually nothing. We keep using this term black. We keep referring to ourselves as black. And it is the social construct. It's absolutely insanity. It tells you absolutely nothing about someone's origin. So ethnicity being real, and like I said, you wouldn't call an Asian yellow. We don't refer to Native Americans as red, but it's acceptable to call black people, call African Americans black. I mean, I don't know anybody here who's actually black. My brother, my shirt's black, but my skin is not black. You know what I'm saying? We're not telling anybody, you're not teaching anybody anything. You know, again, we adopt these terms that they bestow on us. We refer to ourselves with the N-word all too often. Native Americans call themselves Indians. Clearly they're not. In 2025, we're still using these antiquated, ignorant terms. This is insanity, for the love of God. But my brother, you know, because he's learned, he thinks and he knows so much, but he couldn't accept the fact that they're talking about two different things, the social construct and the obvious difference. He keeps on, well, look at us, look at us, look at us. Sure, there are some biological difference. That's your ethnicity. I digress. This is, you know, they are, in my humble opinion, part of the problem, but we're just still stuck in this space. You know, 1492, he came across and started calling people, Christopher Columbus started calling people Indians, and we're still calling them Indians today. They called themselves Indians. Make it make sense.
Yeah. You're right. I can't say that you're wrong.
Listen, we kind of already talked about this already. Again, in his development, and I wanted to say this about the other young kid, the other young brother we was listening to about where his mindset was at his age, right? They're gonna be the people, and this is probably hopefully this is gonna happen. They're gonna be the young cats that's gonna hit the hardest, right? Because those are the guys that we seeing that's in Congress right now, flipping the script on all of this stuff. Because if you go back to before these kids got into Congress and run for these state representatives, they was thinking kind of like that. You know what I'm saying? They was like, whoa, and then they kind of found out later, like, whoa, when they go to the right place, and like she said, when they get learned, they're gonna be the ones that's gonna like skyrocket into all of those spots that we needed to get them into. So I think I think she hit the nail on the head. He's right where he's supposed to be at because he's really smart. He's a really smart. You can tell he's a very educated young man, right? And his mind is twirling. He's kind of like boom, boom, boom. He's not answering her questions directly, but he's answering her questions as a question to himself. Really, if you think about it, if you go back and listen to his answers, he's asking the question to himself, to her. Does that make sense? So the thing for him is like he's gonna go back and listen to that thing and watch it again. He's gonna be like, you know what? Let me find out something. And at his age, at his young age, and his mindset, it's gonna rock his world when that bell hit him. So I'm cool with those guys thinking on their side right now because again, this is a very small number, but that number is growing. Eventually, they're gonna be the ones that's gonna propel us straight to where this country, I guess, supposed to be at. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, and one last thing. So one last thing. And the good book, don't ever put nobody in race category. Start from Genesis 1 on. You'll find out that man was created in the image of God. So put it on you like that.
Hey, can we start this movement and stop referring to ourselves as black? Does that
you know
resonate?
what? I can see exactly where you're coming from there because, like you said, it was thrown on us. Like you said, it comes from the word, it comes from Negro, you know, from the Spanish, you know, and so I can see exactly where you're coming from there. I can.
It's just a very ignorant way. Our panel, Lear. Go ahead. No. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No. That was by mistake. I didn't mean
it's just it's a very ignorant classification system. It is. I mean, it is childish. Yeah. We're naming people crayon colors. We're going to refer to somebody as a crayon color. Stop. What did I tell you?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. All right. So next up, I wanted to talk about is the tweet that the president sent out last night about the Smithsonian, where he said museums throughout Washington, but all over the country, are essentially the last remaining segment of woke. The Smithsonian is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future. We are not going to allow this to happen, and I have instructed my attorneys to go through museums and start the exact same process that has been done with the colleges and universities, where tremendous progress has been made. The country cannot be woke because woke is broke. We have the hottest country in the world, and we want people to talk about it, including our museums. Before I play the video, do anybody have anything that they would like to add? to that.
No, please just play the video. I'm just
Well,
Go ahead.
the
Go
thing
ahead, Joe.
is, this is just his attempt. It's an attempt to whitewash history. The Smithsonian is a
Yeah.
history museum, if I'm not mistaken. It's a history museum. We're talking about the history of the country, and slavery was bad, and the downtrodden have not been as successful. You can talk about current. We can still. Two things can be true, and they are true. We can talk about the success of the United States with a $30 trillion GDP. That takes nothing away from the fact that slavery was horrible, and it is a record of the downtrodden, the oppression, and the subjugation, etc. But the guy, that his entire narrative, them celebrating the Confederacy it is blatant racism, and not wanting to be accountable. Not want to be accountable for that fact. It's their attempt to change the narrative and head off reparations, if anything.
All right, here we go. We're going to watch this, and we'll
in the
debate
studio
and
with
talk
our
about
panel,
it as
Leah Wright-Rigueur. I was actually surprised to see President Trump basically saying the quiet part out loud, that this review of the Smithsonian is not about even just something vague about reviewing history to make sure that it's fair. He wants to make it so that it talks less about slavery. What does that say to you?
Well, I think it's an effort. It's part of a larger effort to both stainwash and whitewash American history, and essentially erase all of the parts and disappear all of the parts that make Americans, that make President Trump uncomfortable, that feel distasteful, that are a reflection of the actual real and horrific parts of our history. And I find it a little ironic. Earlier today, as I was listening to some of the commentary, my first thought was, wait a second. I wonder if the president has actually ever visited any of the Smithsonian museums. And then I remembered that in 2017, he actually took a tour of the National Museum of African American History and Culture.
Let me just play actually what he said during that tour. Listen to this.
I had the privilege of visiting the National Museum of African American History and Culture right here in Washington, D.C. It's a new, beautiful Smithsonian museum that serves as a shining example of African Americans' incredible contributions to our culture, our society, and our history. It also tells of the great struggle for freedom and equality that prevailed against the sins of slavery and the injustice of discrimination. The work and love of the people who helped create such a masterpiece is a testament to the legacy of so many leaders it honors.
So was it that he didn't believe what he read from the teleprompter as he recorded that video, or what?
I agree with your words that it was our original sin. We also fought a war to eradicate it and to get over it as a country. And that was a necessary thing that happened, and a lot of people died, and we did eradicate it, and that's a good thing. I think what he's asking is, in our museums, what defines us? Are we going to be defined by the worst moment or the worst institution or the worst mistake we ever made? Or are we going to be defined by what we've done moving forward to get over it and to become the greatest nation on the earth? My belief is that he wants to look at these museums, not because he wants to do away with the idea that slavery occurred, but that he wants to ask a very simple question. Are we going to present ourselves as being exceptional or not? And I think he believes there is an effort by some to continue to try to define us from our worst moment instead of to try to focus and define us based on our best moments, which started when we eradicated slavery and began to move forward as the light of the world. And so that's what
I'm gonna just stop it there right now because
can I please go first?
Go.
It's gonna be real quick for me. Anyway, what is the best known book that chronicles time and what people did from this time we started to like where we're gonna head?
The Bible.
What's the Bible?
Yeah,
okay.
Bible.
If you got
even that is his
hold on, hear me
story.
out. Hear me out now. I'm not just saying I know we got other people that don't go by the Bible, but for me, from my perspective, right? If that was a translating book that never lost its time. If you think about it, that didn't start off with the best of times, did it? It kind of did, right? Kind of said, hey, we exist, you know what I'm saying? Do the right things, and all of a sudden, all the bad stuff that happened in between all this stuff, right? Is all that is that, and some of the stuff that we don't even know. Some people don't even know about the Ethiopian Bible, right? But anyway, let's just stick on what we know. So if they swinging that pendulum inside of that, right? If they thinking about getting rid of some of the stuff that that was bad, and all you sure was the good stuff, what would that say? You got it. You have to have something that's somewhere that shows you, hey, we came from right here. We went through all this stupid stuff, really, really dumb things, and we're getting better, right? If you erase all the bad stuff, you're doomed to do what?
You're doing it repeated.
People are going to doom to repeat it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a reminder of, hey, we don't never want to go back to this point ever. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be like, oh, the kids eventually, like some of the kids that we talked about earlier, they're never going to know anything about, because they're going to stop. They're already trying to stop teaching in school, right? They're going to have to go higher education to get this stuff. They're trying to get it out of colleges, right? You got to think about this long term, right? This is not checkers, brothers. Chess, baby. Stop thinking now. You got to think you got to think now, kind of in the future, right? This is not just going to be like one of those 1-2 year. This is 10, 15, 20, 50 years down the line. Is how people thinking, bro. You have to be that far ahead of just, maintain where we're supposed to be at as a country. It's my point of view.
I go ahead, Joe.
No, so I don't think that. I mean, the Smithsonian is a collection of 8 museums. A collection of 8 museums. It's a research complex. It's a complex. So it's not one museum, and the National History Museum is in the Smithsonian. I don't understand the need to try to change what the museums are presenting. He's not the most articulate individual. All I see is a continued attempt to fight against the progress that this country has made in the fight for equal rights and representation, and for acknowledgement, for accountability of its past. That's what this is about. So when he was campaigning in 2017 and he wanted African Americans to vote for him, you saw what he read from the teleprompter. Somebody wrote a well-written speech for him. Somebody wrote a great speech for him, and he clearly was reading that from the teleprompter. He clearly doesn't believe any of that, which speaks to his efforts now. No. Why would you go back and try to rename all these military bases after treasonous, traitorous, Confederate
traitors?
Personnel. This brother, come on.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it shows his bigoted views and his white supremacist tendencies. I mean, is that simple?
I think what he wants to ask is a simple question.
Before I continue on, anybody that's watching, if you want to join, I put the link into the show notes if you wanted to join, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube. If you're on Facebook watching, please go to the YouTube and like and subscribe on there and start watching on there. I'm trying to migrate everything over
present
to
our history.
Here we go again.
Are we spending most of our time focused on something terrible? Are we going to spend more time as we enter our 250th anniversary focused on what this country has done to improve the lives of every single person who lives here?
I think that the problem is that there are people, and Scott used the term a couple of times, and I don't think it was meant with any type of ill intent, but he said, we got over it. And I think that's the problem. I think that there are a lot of people in this country who believe that for some reason we got over it. I mean, the fact is that American chattel slavery is vastly different than what Jillian Michaels and others talk about when they talk about slavery around the world. I mean, the chattel slavery system that we had was extremely transactional. It was actually codified in law, and it was based upon the color and race, as you so eloquently pointed out in your opening. And so not only when you think about that portion of where we are, 26 of our first 30 Supreme Court justices owned slaves. The people who are on our money every single day owned slaves. United States presidents, members of the United States Congress owned slaves. Lehman Brothers, we're not far from Wall Street, owned slaves. Brooks Brothers suits that we wear own slaves. So not only are we talking about the epicenter and the foundation of where our country was built, we have to acknowledge that. But even more importantly, and this is where I believe that Scott and I can find agreement on this issue. Breon and Megan Walker, two of my best friends in the world, their dad was the first African-American SGA president at the University of South Carolina, right? He was an exec at IBM, but he was one of the first, right? We're still talking about first that emerged and stood on those shoulders. I tell the story often about my mom and dad. My mom helped desegregate high schools. In Hamilton High School in Memphis, Tennessee, my dad shot in the Orangeburg Massacre. This is a part of my story. This isn't some faint, distant history. And so the reason I bring that up is because I think that American exceptionalism talks about the fact that Black folk enslaved folk help build this country for what it is. They built Washington, D.C., but all of us are around this table. Abby, myself, all of us, not just Abby and myself, all of us are around this table because of the sacrifices and the blood and the sweat and the tears these people poured in.
I also come back to why the focus so much on slavery when it comes to rewriting history. There's a lot of history that it's in these museums, but he's focused on one thing, and that is that there's too much slavery being mentioned in the United States of America. That's very odd, Batia, honestly. What do you think is the problem with talking about slavery, white supremacy, racism, et cetera?
So the point I'm trying to make here is that liberals will say, well, this is a reflection of reality. But of course it isn't. This is a reflection of a newfound obsession that was driven by the media. And that doesn't reflect either the moral evil of these things or the historical accuracy.
I do want to dive into what you mean by that, because you say that you don't think it's a reflection of reality. Based on what?
Well, slavery,
based on the idea that those things don't exist, that white supremacy doesn't exist, racism doesn't exist, that we shouldn't be talking about it anymore?
Based on the idea, obviously all these things I think are evil, but there's not more slavery now to the tune of
but I think part of the problem is that in the 19th, Bakari, part of the problem is that back, not that long ago, in the 50s, the 60s, even beyond that, when there was actual Jim Crow happening in this country, people were actually treating Black people as second-class citizens. We weren't talking about those things at all.
But in
those words were virtually never mentioned.
Abby, you don't
so
think
is that better? Was it better then, or was it worse?
You don't think that 2013 is the same as the 1960s,
But you're missing,
right?
Respectfully, and I've had this debate many
times. Do you
times.
really think that there's as big a difference between the 1960s and 2013?
I don't. That's not my point. My point is that the use of the language in present day, or the lack of the use of the language back when racism was apparent every single day in the streets of America, doesn't reflect really anything except perhaps a better awareness of the reality that we live in as a country.
That's not the point.
Do you think the country was more racist in 2013?
That's not the point.
I didn't say anything about whether the country was more racist
point
now.
Is we're missing the forest for the trees. Because what you have to realize is that the remnants of slavery that emerged through Black codes, which, were enforced by what is modern day police, what you're talking about in Jim Crow, what you're talking about in the civil rights movement, those fights, they weren't even 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. When you talk about George Elmore and everything he gave up so that African Americans could vote in the primary system, when you talk about Harry and Eliza Briggs, who actually were the foundation for Brown versus the Board of Education, when you're talking about Sarah Mae Fleming, who sat down on a bus before Rosa Parks, you're talking about the foundation of where we are today, and you see those remnants of injustice even as we sit here today. You have a corridor of shame in South Carolina. Scott just was in South Carolina along the I-95 corridor where Black and brown kids go to school. Their heating and air don't work. You have hospitals that are shut down. You have redlining that affect Black people today. You have USDAs, right? The Farm Subsidy Program, which wasn't allocating funds to Black people. So yes, although you might want to say, and one of the most amazing things about Barack Obama was that we believed we were in this post-racial society. We are not. And so my point to you is that every ounce of change that we've ever had in this country has been because Black blood flowed through the streets. You don't have the 64-65 Voting Rights Act without the Edmund Pettus Bridge. You don't have the Voting Rights Act. You don't have Fair Housing Act without King being assassinated. We don't even take the Confederate flag down without 9 people being killed in a church. right? We don't talk about criminal justice reform without a black man being killed in the streets. And so when we are articulating our views to you about the remnants thereof, I understand your point that we are not shackled or in bondage like we were in slavery. However, we have never deconstructed the remnants which still affect us today.
Well, I also want to just add, Batia, but Batia,
he is proposing.
I just want to stop right there. That was outstanding. And I never even honestly looked at it like that, but he's absolutely correct. Without blood being spilled on the streets, it took that for us to get progress. Without that, we would not have had the progress. It was a very powerful statement. It was a very powerful statement.
And you got to remember, like the people that, if you got to think, the people that lived through that, like our grandparents were the ones that were like getting all that stuff done, right? And then our parents grew up in the good part of it, kind of. No, not real good, but it was like, yeah, they got voted right back. So now we're their kids, right? So now our parents is like, hey, this is the same stuff that was happening to us back in the day. You know what I'm saying? This is what our parents was going through, right? And they started to show this information out here, and they showing it, I mean, to the whole world. So when they say forget about it, you got to remember it's less than, you know what I mean, a generation and a half ago. Like it's new. You know what I'm saying? In the sense that, you know what I mean, the size of, or the longest years of this country is going. You know what I'm saying? People, it's a thing that it's gonna take a long time to get out, because it was a long time in it. And people think like, oh, if it only took us 100, 200, 300 years to get in it, it takes us 40 years, 50 years to get out of it. No, it's gonna take a long time, but slowly but surely we was getting out of it. And now we're seeing remnants of, nah, y'all moving too fast, push it back a little bit further. That's what the issue is. And that's what people don't understand until they get affected.
Yep. I want to play it because I honestly I don't like this guy. He's a clown to me, because after January 6th, he said Trump has no business ever being in the White House again and all of this stuff. And now he's a full Trumper. And now he's trying to run. He's about to run for Senate in Kentucky, try to take Mitch McConnell's seat. So he's there just to be a contrarian voice, to be the voice for Trump. I don't think he believes any of the shit that he says, but he says it anyway. But I want, because we don't have any conservatives or anybody here that with that viewpoint. So I just wanted to play it so that way we can all hear from that side, just to hear it, even though I know it's bullshit that he's saying.
And I think this is worth discussing, is that as we go into our 250th anniversary, how are we presenting ourselves to the world? Are we presenting ourselves as a country that is obsessed with our worst moment, or are we presenting ourselves as a country that managed to overcome our worst moment and have been improving ever since?
It's not about being obsessed with our worst moment. I mean, again, I think it's an important part. You know, last year, 17 million people visited the Museum for African American History and Culture. And I think that's an important number, because part of what they saw was that this was a story about African American resilience. This is a story about community. It is a story about democracy and triumph. But it is also a story about two parts of the same coin that you can't have. And I think this is to Bakari's point, that you can't have that story of resilience. You can't have that story of expansive democracy without understanding how it happened and how we got there. You can't erase slavery and say, well, it's over and done with, and now we're not going to talk about it.
I mean, the idea that the president is saying that he is going to have his attorneys go through the museums the same way that he did the colleges and the universities is, as far as I can tell, not something that we've seen in this country in a very long time. And it's also something that deserves to be pointed out as not normal.
The danger is with people like Dylan Roof, who had as much hate in his heart as Lester Maddox and other individuals during that time period. We have an entire generation who will discount that history. And I prefer, and I think we have to get back to a point of having more education, more books, more museums, more history in those museums, more exchange of ideas, so that we become a more educated country. Because right now, I feel like this country's dumb as hell.
That's it. That's how you end it. This country is dumb as hell, and I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have, that we don't know civics and we don't know history in this country.
Right.
I don't know, and I think there are so many ignorant people. I think that's what the whole video with Amanda showed, is the ignorance in our country, the ignorance in our Black community, even, you know. Anybody else got anything on that? So,
Yeah, just one last quick thing.
Go
I
ahead,
always
man.
got
Go
something, you know
ahead.
what I mean? But you got to remember, like, history has usually like the side that won, the side that lost, right? It's always that
Yeah.
perspective of it, right? When you just like when I was talking about when they're talking about taking like books out, information out of the history books, taking stuff out the museums or whatever it is, it also doesn't show that the kids, hey, these people fought through all of this to get to where we can. If they did it, we can really do it. You know what I'm saying? That'll take away people's encouragement to even start that kind of stuff, or where even to start at. You know what I'm saying? This is what they had to do to make it work. You know what I'm saying? If they don't see that in history somewhere, they're not gonna know where to start. They might take it. It may take them a long time. You know what I mean? In the future, sometimes saying, "Hey, where do we start to get out of this?" You know what I'm saying? So it dumbs down once or both sides really, and then on the flip side of this, it don't show the oppressing people like, "Hey, this is what bad stuff we did to people. Let's not ever do that again." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the last thing is like, where does all that stuff go? They take out the museums. They destroy it.
No, I just think it sits in it sits in a warehouse
Think about
somewhere
it, bro. You
until
think that
somebody else
stuff gonna
brings
sit
it
in the
out.
closet somewhere?
I do. Well, they'll give it back. So I know they have before giving back exhibits that they have had there to the original owners. Because some of the stuff is on loan to the Smithsonian. Um, I just think it just creates a permission structure for people to show their racism more openly. That's what I think it has definitely. And honestly, I think that's the beauty and curse with Trump is that he has allowed these bigots that were more in the closet to be more out in the open. And I for one rather see who you are than you hide it from me and let me find out. So then that way I know to stay the hell away from you and keep my family away from you. I'll never forget my son, my youngest son is huge car fan. And he was really big into NASCAR at one time. He still loves cars and all that stuff. And we got the Texas Motor Speedway that's here by us. And we said, all right, son, they're here this weekend. We're gonna go down there and just see. We're not gonna go to the race, but we're gonna go to the weekend and go in the inner circle, or the inner whatever you call it, the pit, and hang out and just see stuff. And we paid our little fee to take our car through and go to the pit and stuff. And not within. Well, I seen some flags outside of the stadium, but then as soon as we went in, it was like every other trailer, every other car was a Confederate flag. And I just looked at my son and I said, we ain't gonna be here long, son. Just letting you know. We are not gonna be here long. I want, you're gonna go through so you can see it, but understand that we're not gonna be here because you see all these flags, they don't want us here. They do not want us here. And I don't care what people want to say about the heritage and all this other shit. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. All of those Confederate statues were erected after the Reconstruction to intimidate black people. That's a fact. That's a fact. All of those names of roads, all those names of schools was to continue to keep black people in our place. So they think. No different than the back to blue. That's why I hate that shit. That to me is no different. Is the same Confederate flag as everything else to me. Because it's to me, it means stay in your place. Stay in your place, black people. Stay in your place. Your life don't matter that much. Be happy that you're here. That's my personal opinion. Before we go any further, anybody got anything to say or contribute to the next this last subject before we continue on?
Yeah, for the people that think that all that stuff is dead, you got to remember it's only been 100 plus 40 something odd years.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the one thing that I cut out.
You think that stuff is dead?
Yeah, that's one thing I did cut out with
Everybody
Amanda.
knows.
She had
Come on.
said one of the guys said that she said to a guy saying that we're not going to get anything from reparations or anything like that, and she said we were enslaved for 400 years. We only been and freed for over 125 years, 100 whatever many years it's been. That's a quarter of the way that we were enslaved. So we should stop fighting for the progress and fight for the things that we should. A quarter of the way through,
right?
As long as we were enslaved,
right? Goes back
like,
to what I say. You was in it for a long time. It's gonna take a minute to get out.
Yeah. All right. With that being said, our next subject we're going to talk about
we ain't going back. I'm sorry, I had to put that out there too.
No, yeah, we're not going
Let's
back.
roll it.
Absolutely not. Is the Texas representative that was stuck in the house because she wouldn't sign a permission slip to leave? Did you guys know about that? What happened?
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yes, I played a quick 2-minute newsreel on it, and then we can discuss it a little bit.
United will never be divided. The people.
This afternoon, the redistricting battle has entered a new phase. Democrats from Austin to Fort Worth are rallying to the side of Representative Nicole Collier right now. The Tarrant County Democrat has been sitting on the House floor for more than 24 hours. She brought a blanket and pillow and is refusing to back down. Republicans say redrawing congressional maps will better reflect voters' interests. But as Brittany Costello reports, Collier could represent the Democrats' last stand.
Tarrant County Democratic Representative Nicole Collier is making one final move to rally Texans before a vote on the highly contentious redistricting map.
The way we fight is the way we win. You have to let them know that you're not going to go down without a fight.
Representative Collier chose to sleep on the floor of the Texas House chamber Monday evening after the Speaker of the House ordered fleeing Democrats to sign a permission slip before leaving the Capitol. It requires DPS troopers to escort them and ensure they return for business on Wednesday.
I was outraged. I just said that this is unacceptable. I won't do it.
She's free to leave the Capitol, but only under those circumstances. The Speaker of the House says it's all allowable under Texas House rules Collier voted in favor of in January. Speaker Dustin Burrows wouldn't interview, but says Representative Collier's choice to not sign the permission slip is within her rights. He sent a statement saying in part he is choosing to spend his time focused on moving the important legislation on the call.
It only takes one. You can be the lone person standing, but you could spark a movement.
That movement is taking shape in Fort Worth, with local advocates praising her relentless fight.
When you target Nicole Collier, you target every voter she represents, every community she serves, and every citizen who still believes in justice.
Calling on others to stand with her.
Numbers do matter, and we refuse to be silent, we refuse to be quiet, and we refuse to give up.
Representative Collier says she won't back down, and tonight, some of her Democrat colleagues will join her in the House chamber.
And I will be here until the call of the House is released.
In Fort Worth, I'm Brittany Costello.
All right, so to me, I don't see how that's legal to keep somebody against their will. I just don't. Welcome, Holly. Welcome back to the couch. Nice seeing you, shipmate. This prompts you to get on. How do you feel about the pod so far and what you've been watching and this subject? The floor is yours. You're on the couch. The floor is yours.
In particular, this subject, I'm with you. I don't see how this was even legal. To me, it's kidnapping. I'm being held against. You're hostage at this point. So I don't even see how that was even allowed. That just boggles my brain in and of itself. But on the other subjects, I've been listening in and got in from work, so that's why I was just typing and doing other stuff. But I finally got a chance to sit down now and kind of chime in. But it really makes me upset. One, with the museum, they're targeting all of the history. I mean, everybody on here has already said what it is. You erase the history, you're bound to repeat itself. There's people coming up, behind us that aren't aware of what we've done as a people and what we've overcome. You get rid of it, and now you're forced to find this information when it really shouldn't be that hard. This America is what it is. We are who we are. I did see somebody put on there. Somebody had said, I think it was you. I'm sorry. What's your name? I know you, Ronnie. The other gentleman.
Joel.
Hi, Joe.
That's Joel.
Hello.
I agree with you on that, and I don't know if we digressing or not, but quit calling ourselves Black. I couldn't agree with you more on that. Somebody put on there American of African descent. I don't agree with that, because are we American? What is American and ethnicity? I don't think so.
No, that's our nationality.
Exactly.
That's our nationality.
So I don't know, and I don't know if we call ourselves of African descent. I don't know what we call ourselves, but I agree with you with the Black thing. We're not Black, like Japanese are called. People from Japan are called Japanese. You know what I'm saying? So
Japanese,
I don't know what we call ourselves at this point. They've stolen all of our history. They've stolen everything. We don't know. Me personally, you can talk to Filipinos, you can talk to other cultures, and they can go back hundreds of years of who their ancestors were. I can go no further back probably than my great grandparents at the very most, and that would be difficult to trace. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's disheartening that they're targeting our history. It is what it is. It's not pretty, but it's a part of American history. And the only reason he's targeting it because he's a pure out racist. He's scum. So that's just my 2 cents.
Well, one thing, you know, the reason why I don't have a problem with referring to myself as an American African is because it does speak to my heritage. It doesn't change the fact that they're American Europeans or European Americans or they're Asian Americans. You know, it's that is the reality. You refer to someone's continent of origin, it tells you a little bit more about their history. But the fact of the matter is that I agree with my dear sister. We are Americans. We're all Americans. So it isn't, you know, the only natives here are the Native Americans. So it does, in my opinion, speak a little bit more or accurately define who we are. But what we are not are crayon colors.
No, you know what? Funny that you say that about the Native Americans, right? So, what would if we are Americans? What would we call the Native Americans? Would we just still categorize them as Native Americans? Then they would be the only ones that would be ostracized. Come on, we got to think a little bit further than that. And I agree with everybody. I think all they do is put people in. You got to remember, it's chess, not checkers. That when they can put somebody in a box, in different type of boxes, any kind of box, right? None of us that get born get to choose which box we go in. We just, here's the box you're in. If you decide to stay in that box, you can stay in that box. If you decide to go peek over the side of it and realize, oh, this is cool, then that's on you, right? But the more they divide people, right, and put us in categories of whatever you want to call it, we don't call it Eastern Japanism or whatever it is. It's just like what Holly was saying is if you go to Sweden, they don't call them Eastern Swedes or white. They don't do any of that stuff. It's just one thing. Period. If you get born here, you're born here. Period. That's what your title is. If we're all gonna be called Americans, everybody's gonna be called Americans. We're gonna have to pull in our people, the natives in there, and say that's what it is.
But I think this country is distinctly different because we are all here as well. Now, before I even say that, my ancestors were not immigrants, but majority of the people came here as immigrants. So, with that being said, we are American. That is our nationality, but our ethnicity is different. And so I have no problem with anybody calling themselves Italian Americans or, you know, or African Japanese if they grew up in Japanese and immigrated there and that's what they are now, you know. But I think it's and the only reason why we can't say I'm Nigerian American is because we don't know exactly where we came from. That's the reason why we can't do that. I'm from Sierra Leone American is because of that. So we have to go with that. We have to go with the entire goddamn continent.
But we would refer to them still. They're still Asian Americans. It doesn't. And
Asian American.
I don't feel like calling someone Native American is ostracizing. I just think it speaks to their actual history. It speaks to their origin. They were the original inhabitants on this continent. So I mean, it's not disenfranchising to me.
To you, it isn't.
But again.
They want to be called Choctaw and whatever their things is what they were called. So it is degrading. You got to look at it from that point of view. Trust me, I know. You know what I'm saying?
And I can speak to that too.
So the whole thing is that you got to look at the other person's perspective. You were right. You said to you, that's what it means to you. Because in I don't know how many years you are and where you came from. Of course, it's not going to mean that to you. Just like we were talking about them kids. And we was like, how can they not know this? Because it's pretty much the same thing what you just did, right? That's where our kids are. That's where their minds is. Like, it doesn't affect me yet. Because on my point, this is my point, Well, yeah, on your perspective, but you always got to flip the script on that and look at it on the opposite end of it. Does that make sense? And look at how people, I don't care what you call me. I'm going to be who I am. My mom named me Ronnie. However she came up with it, I know it came from my dad. I'm Ronnie. You know what I'm saying? Because that's from my mom. But if you're going to group of people in a whole bunch and say, hey, this is what you're going to be, and you want to stay in that box, then okay, that's where you're going to stay.
Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, ma'am. Please.
No, I think I hear what you're saying, but we all want to belong to something in somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, every other culture, every other people on this earth belong to somewhere. We do, but we don't know where. Case in point, why are you looking like that? But case in point is I work for USDA and we supply the food to the tribe. We got 29 tribes within the Southwest region. And I was there one day and we were doing the audit and everything. And one of the Native American women, we were just sitting around after just chit-chatting and talking about their culture. It's intriguing. But she asked me, and I'm the only person of color there on this audit. And she asked me, she didn't ask anybody else. She said, what tribe do you come from?
They know.
And I looked at her like, I have no idea. And she said, I know you don't. She said, I knew you didn't know the answer to that. That was embarrassing. Really, it was. Because she wasn't saying it to be facetious or evil or anything like that. She actually has a daughter-in-law who is our color, whatever, is one of us. And she said, I know, because my daughter-in-law, no one of color that I speak to knows the answers to those questions. That's embarrassing. So it's everybody, you have a sense of belonging to, something. We do, but we don't have any history of it. Well, very few people can probably trace their roots back to their actual native land. Very few. But I just couldn't add that.
See, but but hold on real quick. Just again, Holly, that goes to what you're on your perspective is like, this is how I understood it. But she really asking you, do you know what tribe you come from? Because everybody didn't come. I'm trying to tell y'all, everybody didn't come on no boat. I'm gonna tell y'all that. So a lot of times, because we say this is what the history says, is eventually a lot of times that like who's giving this information out? Who put this information together? You know what I'm saying? Is it something that we should be utilizing? Is there other things? For me, I like to trust but verify, right? How can you verify what they're telling you? The end of it is just what they're giving me. This is what it is. Like, wait, how can I verify what you put in this data is accurate? You know, so kind of like what she was is like, you don't know what tribe you're from. Your people may not have come across, parts of your people, because I'm sure we all mixed up by now, but I'm sure that you probably don't know that we originated. A lot of people, it was black people already here. People don't talk about that history. You know what I'm saying? That people always just, no, you got to go look at the color of them Indians. That's what they called them. They were Indians. They were black people, but they didn't have any categories back in the day. You understand what I'm saying? So you gotta look at it that way. So people are like, oh no, it was. Go do your real history and understand what it really is.
I don't, again, I feel like they are Native Americans. And when you talk about the tribes, whether they're Chickasaw, Choctaw, Cherokee, or Sioux, etc., you're just breaking it down into subgroups. It's still their tribe of origin. And I go to the continent of Africa, whether you're a Zulu or Swahili or etc., it's still that's your tribe, your clan. And as far as the Europeans were considered, they didn't classify themselves in tribes, they classified themselves in clans, and then it developed into nation states. So again, I and I won't digress any further on it, but it's a more accurate classification of your origin. That's all it's speaking to. And your continent of origin at least tell someone your continent of origin. Whether you're Japanese, Chinese, Cambodian, or Laotian, you're still Asian American. It's the continent of Asia. Whether you're English or Ukrainian, you're still European. You're still a European. All those other countries, their ethnicity is synonymous almost with their nationality.
Yes,
that is it's unique here because it's a melting pot. And even then, the greater classification system for Europeans would be
European. It's the continent of origin. It's Europe. So I don't see like it's disenfranchising. I'm not taking anything away from your tribal heritage. They are buried. Their cultures were different, but it's still accurate. We must, in all things, I believe in consistency. We must be consistent. We wouldn't, again, and I keep saying, we wouldn't call an Asian yellow. We're not colored. We're not Negroes. We accepted those terms back in the day, but we wouldn't accept that now. If somebody called you colored, you look at them sideways. I beg your pardon. Just because you consistently, Native Americans call themselves Indians.
Yeah, they
but
do.
In 1492, Columbus was looking for a trade route to India. Just because you land Indian. I mean, okay, your ignorance back then may have been acceptable, but in 2025, how are we justifying that?
So can I ask you a question, Joe? What do we call ourselves?
I am American African. I got that from Dr. Umar Johnson, I believe. But well, it may not, maybe that didn't come from him. But I am definitely African American. My origin is Africa, but my nationality is American. Whether we go to the Afro-Caribbeans or Afro-Dominicans, or correction, that is Afro-Caribbean, or even in South America, the Afro-Colombians and the Afro-Brazilians, you're still giving credit to the origin, this diaspora of individuals that left, that were taken during the slave trade and dropped off in a variety of places in the New World, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take anything away from our origin, our heritage. But one thing we can say is we're not black.
That's true.
My shirt's black, but that's what just kills me. And so I say, okay, so what is an accurate classification, and what will be accurate for everybody? My origin, my continent of origin.
And the reason why we're using continent origin is because, again, we do not know our nationality of origin. We do not know our village of origin.
Even if we did, because that's speaking to Ronnie's point, even if we did, I'd still be African American. If I knew that I was a Zulu, which is in South Africa, I'd still be African American. It's still so. An Asian American is Asian American, even if you're Japanese or you're Chinese or you're Korean. So even if I knew my tribal origin, doesn't take away my continent of origin is still Africa. I'm American African, or I'm African American. And they are too. They're European Americans. They can, just because they can retrace their history to a particular country on that continent, it doesn't change the fact. Let's be consistent.
I agree. So we got a comment. I just wanted to bring it up. It says, I don't understand why this is a big deal. Do we not want to be called American? I don't think anybody here said it didn't want to be called American. We all want to be called American. That wasn't the issue at all. It was more about the issue about being called black. And I understand exactly where Joel is coming from, because it helped create the caste system. Like you said, the race was, we were enslaved because of our race. There wasn't any enslaved Caucasians. Maybe at first, maybe in the 1400s, off indentured servitude. But other than that, there wasn't a whole system created in our country founded upon like it was for the slavery for Africans.
Fact. Indentured servitude is not slavery. It's not chattel slavery anyway, which was practiced here.
I don't want to get too deep with it. Okay, let's just move on, because I can go way deeper than that. Let's not.
But that's really it. I mean, I don't know. I have our thing that we're going to learn today was actually I was going to say this to you, Holly. I don't know if you've done any ancestry work, anything yet, or done your DNA or anything like that, but I have done extensive stuff on ancestry, and I've been able to go back to the 1700s with my family. Yeah, I've been able to go back to the 1700s. On my mother's side. On my father's side, I've been able to get back to the 1860s.
Do you use Ancestry or the?
Yeah, I use Ancestry. Okay. Yeah, I use Ancestry and the DNA, and it has actually helped to find people as well, and it'll match up DNA with your family tree and stuff like that as well. Okay. Ancestry does.
I'm gonna look into that.
So it is stuff out there. Yeah, there's a bunch of censuses and stuff like it's. If you love I love history, so to me it's fascinating.
You know what? I'll share something with you, and I think it's probably going to be a little bit more difficult. A lot of the elders in my family have passed on, but just a quick story. My mother's father was born down south somewhere. I don't know. But this is my grandfather was on the chain gang down south for killing somebody for something. I don't know all the whole story as to why. But his son, my uncle, was telling this story at our family reunion just back in June. But his name was Sullivan back there. He escaped the chain gang, got to Ohio, and changed his name to Joy. So it's like trying to piece everything together is super difficult because now you stop there and okay, now who is this Sullivan? It's crazy because he passed away when, you know, his kids and everything were young and everything like that because he was much older than my grandmother. But they didn't really know if his name was Edward or Willie. So now it's like, are you kidding me?
Oh, wow.
You know, and my grandmother has passed. So these are the things, you know, it's kind of like, how do you find out? But I'm still going to try to find some information, you know, from it. But yeah, I'm like, whoa. So, you know, even the, you know, just as close as my grandfather is a little bit difficult. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Wow. Well, y'all, it's been a great pod so far. I have 2 things left. This has been a very video intensive pod. I have 2 things left. It's one, what we're going to learn about, which actually is one of my ancestors. Is our history lesson for today, and then we're going to clean our palate. And today I'm changing up the clean our palate. I have actually a video for our clean our palate that I think we all will enjoy. So the first thing we're going to do is our history lesson for today, and it is about Robert Smalls. I'm sure some of you history buffs may have heard of him. He is actually in my lineage. He's from Beaufort, South Carolina, which is exactly where my grandmother is from, and my Capers family is from. Is Beaufort, South Carolina, and my great grandmother was a Smalls. So he is actually in our lineage, and it's about Robert Smalls from the Civil War. I don't know if you guys have heard of him or not, but we'll go to a quick video for him.
My name is Robert Smalls. In 1839, I was born into slavery in Beaufort, South Carolina, in the heart of Gullah country, where the rice and stories and music of Africa were in the water and in the air. My mother always told me, Robert, you may live in slavery, but you don't have to be a slave. I didn't understand at the time, but her words stuck with me. We worked in the house for Henry McKee and his family, but my mother wanted me to understand the world, so she sent me sometimes into the fields where I saw the back-breaking work and the brutality of slavery. When I turned 12, my mother convinced Mr. McKee to send me to Charleston, where she hoped I would find community and more fulfilling work. I started out carrying bags at the Mills House Hotel, and I slept in a nearby horse stable. At the hotel, I met a young enslaved woman named Hannah Jones who was raising 2 daughters on her own. I vowed to marry her and take them away from that place. All my wages were sent to the McKee family except for $1 per week. So I saved every dollar I could, planning to buy our freedom one day. I found extra work lighting lamps, which took me along the docks. There I fell in love with the boats and the water. I found work unloading ships, mending sails and rigging, and eventually I became the wheelman on a steamboat called the Planter. On Christmas Eve 1856, I made good on my promise to marry Hannah, and for a few years we found happiness in spite of our circumstances. Though blacks couldn't vote in 1860, we heard about the new president, Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln did not support slavery, and soon South Carolina and the other slave states seceded from the Union and the Civil War began. Every boat in Charleston was enlisted to serve the Southern Confederate Army, including the Planter. Early in the war, my hometown of Beaufort was captured by the Union Army, who set the slaves there free, including my mother. I was glad to hear this news. Maybe freedom was closer than I had thought. The Planter was used to transport Confederate weapons and ammunition, and all the crew except the captain and his mates were slaves. So we made a secret plan to steal the Planter and take it to freedom. Around 3 in the morning on May 13th, 1862, when the captain and his mates were ashore for the night, we took the planter up the river, snuck our wives and children aboard, then headed for the harbor, knowing that our mission was do or die. I put on a uniform and a straw hat like the captain always wore, and gave the secret signals to the watchmen at Fort Sumter. At last, they signaled all clear, and we passed safely out of the harbor. We turned south toward Beaufort and hoisted a white flag, surrendering the planter to the first Union ship we encountered. When the captain saw the weapons on board, I said, "I thought these might be of some use to Uncle Abe." Little did I know, I was about to meet the man himself. I was 23 years old when I found myself in the White House with President Lincoln. He took great interest in the story of our escape and took my words to heart when I said he ought to allow black men to fight for the Union. He commended my bravery. Though I never felt brave, I was just more afraid of my children living in slavery than I was of dying. With the reward money I received, I was able to purchase the big house in Beaufort where I had grown up as a slave, and that was my home for the rest of my life. I served in the Union Navy until the war ended, learned to read and write, started businesses, and eventually ran for office. The U.S. Constitution was amended not only to abolish all slavery, but to ensure the right to vote for all men, regardless of race. Soon, I found myself elected to the South Carolina legislature, where most representatives were now men of color. In those years, South Carolina established the first public school system in the nation. I went on to serve in the United States Congress in Washington for 5 terms, despite adversity as racist leaders in South Carolina sought to make it harder for blacks to vote and get elected, using fraud, violence, and unfair voting laws. Later in life, I learned that my old master's wife had become destitute and was suffering from dementia. Much to the surprise of my friends, I invited her to come and live with us in the big house in Beaufort. You see, there's a freedom of heart that no man can take from you, a freedom in forgiveness, in courage, and in gratitude. And I think that is the freedom my mother spoke of when she told me that, even in slavery, I didn't have to be a slave.
It was just so many things in that story. The 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 ability to be able to do what he did, as far as, freeing his family, giving up that ship, and then it tells us the goodness that we have in our heart as people, to be able to take in your master's wife, and until she passed. That's just, everybody can't do that. And it was just, I don't know, how did the video make you guys feel? Have you heard of Robert Smalls before?
I have not. No.
Yeah.
No. And then where does he fit in your lineage?
He is on my mother's, he's on on my father's side, my father's mother's side. All of my entire family's from Beaufort, South Carolina. Matter of fact, my grandmother just passed away at 101 in Beaufort, and I went to her funeral there in Beaufort. This January, she just passed away. Oh, actually, going on 101. She died right before her 101st birthday. And so all of my family is from down there. So the Smalls is like I said, my great grandmother was a Small. So I'm not sure, and that's where I haven't been able to get further back to see if she was one of his kids, or maybe one of his nieces, or one of his brother's kids. I haven't figured that out yet. But my great grandmother was a Smalls in Beaufort, and that's where all our family is from. So he's definitely in our he's an ancestor of mine, but I don't know if he's a direct, like, I'm in his direct lineage or
that's
like that.
awesome. That's a blessing to be able to have that, that history as a part of your family, and be able to know it. You know what I'm saying? It could be a part of it and never know. You know what I'm saying? So that's a blessing.
Yeah.
I felt proud watching that. Even, under those circumstances, especially his mother telling him, just because you were a slave, I mean, you got to act like one. You know what I'm saying? So that I think, and I'll just say this, I think some of those morals and values and stuff, we've lost it. You know, even though that they really didn't have a lot, they, you know, worked hard, they didn't, you know, have the material things. They had things far greater than that, I think, you know, within themselves that they passed on to their children and so on and so forth. So I felt extremely proud just watching that for you, you know. So yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you. And I would like to say again, if you guys know of anything, because I'm a history buff, but I don't know any and everything. And so if you know of any history,
Yeah.
please pass it on to me and we can get it out to our community so that we can all learn together, because that's what this group is about. This group is about us being able to have these serious talks and these conversations for us to be able to learn and for us to be able to grow together as a
Yeah.
community and as a family. And I appreciate all of y'all for
Yeah,
being on
appreciate you.
here. I really, truly do. Does anybody got any last words before I
No,
clean
that
our
was
palette?
very inspirational, man. I mean, that was dope.
Yeah.
I mean, just to have, you know what I mean, the allow your people to go out and do their thing and they come back and, you know what I mean, do what they did at the end and accomplish as much as he did going through that. That speaks volume to, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, you want to be something and do something, you can get it done, even through some circumstances that you don't have any control over. You know what I'm saying? So there's opportunity where, you know what I'm saying, you can get out and get things done if you want to get it done, for sure.
Absolutely. And again, I'll just reiterate, you know, we started off with Amanda and a bunch of conservatives, and you know, they, especially the one who said that conservatives believe in hard work, conservatives believe in they don't need no handouts and all this stuff, as if being liberal or being progressive
Right.
means that you do. It's complete and utter bullshit. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah,
let's
I
speak
was
it for
kind of
what it
right.
is. You know what I'm saying? Like I believe in giving back. I believe in taking care of people and making sure that everybody has the same opportunity, because we all deserve it regardless of where we come from, who we are. You know, that's what it's about. It's not about holding anybody back,
Well,
you know. And so
no,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Please continue. Okay.
No, I'm
What
done.
is
I'm
a
done. Go ahead.
progressive?
A progressive is someone who is
How about someone who believes in progress? In progress. How about
yes,
just
I
someone who
agree.
believes in
Progress.
progress? Like
Yes.
a conservative. Like, what would be your real qualm with being someone or who believes in progress?
Right.
Progress. Why wouldn't we all want to progress? I guarantee you, they want to progress economically. So when we want to progress socio-economically or socially, etc. You know, expanding rights and freedoms and privileges to all who exist, abandoning, you know, all these these vestiges of racism and suppression. Like, what is their hang up with that? Now, I understand, you know, you say someone liberal, you know, that can be different, you know, but this is sometimes these terms, what Republicans are very successful at doing is demonizing these terms. They want to give them these negative connotations, you know, woke. You want to attach all this negative, you want to take this negative perspective and sentiment to being woke. Aware, you know, I'm woke.
Yeah.
It is
Right,
what it is.
right. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. And they don't care they don't even care where the term comes from. They don't even know where the term comes from. It comes from going to sundown towns and going to the South and knowing that, hey, you need to make sure you got your head on a swivel when you're in these areas. That's where it comes from.
I mean, yeah.
Because that's our past. That's our past that we're trying to get rid of at
But,
this
I mean,
point.
if you think about it, it's reverse. I mean, people can't go in certain neighborhoods anywhere. It's always going to be like that. It's never going to be a perfect. It's like that in all the other countries too. There were places that we could go when we went there to go, you know, poor. You can't go everywhere. Even the people that are there aren't allowed to go to certain places, or they don't go because they know it's a bad place to go to, or they don't have the same thinking. You're going to have that. You are. However, when you have a government that's trying to make everybody one thing, that is going to be the problem. And they're going to do it to hold other people back, which for us, I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think sometimes, you ever heard, sometimes you need a little pressure to progress a little bit further. You got to push a little bit more weight to get stronger. Because if you're pushing the same way, you're just going to basically same. That's what it is for us. We like, shit, all right, give us some more weight a little bit. We just going to do what we normally, you just going to make us stronger. right? If you think about it. So if you change your mind thinking on like a lot of these things that are happening, you won't think of it as we split people up with progressive, whatever the hell you want to call it, in the category when we all in the same bucket together drowning. Like stop trying to pull people. That's a progressive dude. That's a whatever. No, we all got to lift each other up. That's what the point is. That's what I was trying to say. You don't want to have people so categorized where they don't even understand or they don't even understand self. You know what I'm saying? Self is in all of us, not just because what you do or what other people do is going to affect everything that I do. It's like driving a car down the highway, bro. You know what I mean? You in your car, you got all this stuff in front of you, no control over it, but you know how to respond to it because hopefully you got a plan. That's where your mind should be at.
Yeah. And I want to add too, lastly, when it comes to the museum stuff and all of that, is to me, it should be a sense of pride that we went from a place where we had these people in bondage to a place where we are creating equality. The problem is, and this is the problem I think, and the reason why they want to take all of those things out is they don't want to see us with equality. And so let's just act like everybody's equal. Let's act like there is no history. Let's act like nothing ever happened. So that way we don't have to worry about creating this equality that these people are striving and should have.
How about they don't want to be accountable? You don't want
They don't want to be that too.
You don't want to be accountable. You don't want to, because you don't want to speak to the continued. We act like, okay, so the Civil War ended in 1865. And so in 1964 civil rights legislation was signed. We're talking 99 years. Why do we need civil rights legislation if all had been ended? And even after that, I mean, there's the redlining, the black codes, the segregation, like all this stuff still existed after the fact. But what they don't want to be is accountable. You don't want to be accountable, and you don't want it to highlight the fact that even after that, they continue to implement methods and measures to subdue us, to prevent progress. And I like your point. Instead of touting the success that the progress that has been made, you just want to whitewash it and disband it. And I also think it speaks to the fact that, with the growing at the time during the Biden administration, the growing clamor for reparations, and that it started taking steam and became more of a common term and a push and a request. You want to remove justification for it. Let's whitewash it. Let's dumb it down, and let's try to hide the dishonor. But at the end of the day, you clearly saw he read from the teleprompter. He couldn't articulate that if he was paid to do so. Not in a billion years. He couldn't articulate the facts that he articulated. But when he was a politician running for office that first term, and he was hoping to grab a couple of suckers, and he grabbed a lot of them to go ahead and support his presidency, he clearly was able to speak to the progress that was made, the history and the progress that was made. But now we're going to go ahead and try to let me do his hand motion. We're going to get rid of all of that. It highlights his inherent racism. He is feeding red meat to all of those who don't want to be accountable. And I'm not saying that that Caucasians who didn't enslave African Americans are guilty of anything, but they are beneficiaries of a system that has propped them up and pushed others down. This is just facts. And earlier in the pod, I'd already elucidated to the best of my ability some of that of the different methods in which they did so. It's foolish. It's almost pointless to discuss Donald Trump. I mean, it is clear to anybody with an honest heart and an honest brain who and what he is and what his attempts are to do.
I just want to read this comment. It is, you think they are still preventing progress today? Yes, absolutely. That was the comment. Joel, go.
Okay. Absolutely. How many African Americans in Donald Trump's cabinet?
We just found that out.
One. Well, I'm not counting LT.
He
LT is
made
not
him
even
up,
actually in the
dog.
cabinet. He's just on a board. We got the sex offender on the board. We got a sex offender on the board for children. That's absolutely appalling. Number two, the only that well, actually, he had the Surgeon General in the first administration, but the job that he gives black people is you can be in charge
Right.
of urban development. That's what you can be in charge of.
But the thing is, like, the question was, are they still preventing progress today? Well, yes. When you've ended, I forget the young lady's name whose video we were observing when they talk about the UC Berkeley, how African American enrollment is down by 60%. You know, again, when it comes to affirmative, we had affirmative action. Who eroded that? You know, so when you talk about there's a variety of programs, I can't recall off the top of my head, a variety of programs that they have actually retarded that actually benefited us, and it's not, it was not an attempt to make us better. It was an attempt to make us whole. So when okay, the fact that you have tried to destroy DEI, which is just saying include us, and even the fact that white women were the greatest beneficiary of it, but even the fact that you have effectively destroyed DEI and you continuously come up with laws banning any institution, private institutions, even though they may receive some federal dollars, banning any institutions that want to practice ensuring that they are an inclusive institution, organization, company, etc. You are disenfranchising the progress of African Americans, trying to continuously make us whole. So the answer is absolutely unequivocally yes.
I just want to add in there, when they get rid of affirmative action, but never get rid of legacy emissions. Let me say that again for you in the back. When they get rid of affirmative action, but keep legacy admissions. And in case you don't know what legacy admission is, that means when your father went there, or and he's a big beneficiary or big benefactor to you to the university, so you automatically are able to get in. Do you think those black folks that are able to do that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They're not getting rid of legacy admissions. They're getting rid of affirmative action. They're getting rid of giving the opportunities for people who are disenfranchised to be able to join and be able to go to those universities.
Okay.
Among other things. Why should, his next question, you may want to just come on XL Nova. Why should programs benefit us? Or maybe we need to have this on the next pod.
What's
That was
the
the
benefit us
that was
thing?
the next.
Like, who was the us? So you got,
why should programs benefit
it's never going. Listen,
black people?
Listen, no, listen, listen. The numbers don't lie. People lie. Numbers don't. Any program that you can go back that's ever been developed throughout the entirety of this country, or just to start with our country, of this country, has never ever overabundantly benefited anybody but the Anglo white sect. That is a no. It's because one is history, and the numbers are going to say that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to look at the numbers of amount of people that are in this country. People think like, oh, black people, what is 1 point some percent, whatever. I don't know the actual numbers are, right? But the majority is a bigger number. That crowd is going to get an abundance of that program. There's never going to be enough. Even if you was to think if every person in all the other demographics was to get everything that program got, it still wouldn't equal a tenth of what the entirety of the freaking bigger group would get. Does that make sense? Do people even understand numbers? Yeah. Like, it's so basic mathematically in your mind that you got to think to yourself, and it resonates in my head. The average reading comprehension in the United States is 6th grade level. Imagine what their math skills are. Imagine those kind of details where they don't see and understand the basic things that needs to be understood, right? That's where we're failing at. Get people more educated so they can really understand it, because they don't understand it until it affects them. But their number is so big, it's going to take forever to affect them. Then it's going to be immediate for the smaller number of people. That's it. That's what it is.
Absolutely agree. Nova, maybe we can set something up that you can come on next week and we can all bring the same panel on. We can all discuss it.
Bobby,
But we're at a 2 hour
Bobby,
mark. Go ahead.
this is a conversation of
Go ahead.
this is an entire conversation.
Yeah.
The topic could be, does systemic racism exist? If he doesn't believe or understand how systemic racism existed and continues to exist, then you won't understand why we should have programs that actually benefit us. They're not actually meant to benefit us, they're meant to make us whole. But again, the greater conversation to start with, we can talk about all the systemic, all the different programs, the methods, whether it was the black code, the Jim code, the Jim Crow, the redlining modern day. So not just historically, and then we could talk about the GI Bill that wasn't given to African Americans who were returning from war. So and then look at the generational wealth that was removed from us. So what do you mean? Why should we benefit from it? Because they're trying to make us whole. As air traffic controllers, 2010, 11, and 12, President Obama, with that red book, sought to make us whole. Okay, it didn't make us better, make us whole. That's why we should have these programs, my dear brother, whoever's asking.
Yeah. So hopefully, and I can tell you right now that he does not think systematic racism exists anymore. But so hopefully we can have a talk about that next week. I would love to. But we're gonna clean our palate, and this video that I'm about to show to clean our palate with, I seen it and it just brought a smile to my. I just smiled and just really enjoyed it, and it just took me back to a place of nostalgia. And I think, to be honest with you, it put this video, when you start to see it, it has put us where we are today. We are where we are today because of this man and because of this video. And so after I started, you guys will enjoy it. I'm sure you will, because it's nostalgic. But we are where we are today with our race relations. Well, not completely where our race relations, but just where we are today politically, because this man upended our political
President
system.
Obama still has 8 months left in office before his second term is up. Naturally, this is a time to look back on all he's accomplished over the past 8 years. You know, I was going to make a joke about this, but I don't think it needs a joke. I think it needs to be slow jammed. You know what I'm talking about, Tariq?
Yeah, Jimmy. I think you're saying you like to slow jam this news.
That's right. I want to slow jam the news, and I'm not the only one.
Hello. I'm President Barack Obama, and I too would like to slow jam this news.
Hit me 8 times!
It's been an honor and a privilege to serve as your president over the past 8 years. When I first took office, our nation was facing one of the worst recessions in its history. Since then, we've added more than 14 million new jobs and lowered the unemployment rate to under 5%. Through the actions of my administration, we were able to stimulate the economy and get our country back on track.
Oh, yeah. President Obama stimulated long-term growth in both the public and the private sector.
You want to laugh so bad.
In 2008, the country wasn't feeling in the mood. It was too tired, stressed, said it had a headache. Barack lit some candles and got some silky satin sheets.
Silky satin sheets now.
Told the American people, yes, we can.
Yes, we can. It's all right. He created tons of jobs for you and me. And he's got one more left for Hillary.
As president, I'm proud of the many progressive steps our country has taken in recent years, both socially and environmentally. The United States has been a leader in developing clean energy to ensure the health of our planet for future generations. Thanks to the Affordable Care Act, an additional 20 million Americans now have access to quality health care. And same-sex couples across the country now have a constitutional right to marry. In short, climate change is real, health care is affordable, and love is love.
Commander and preach! You gotta listen to my man, Berizas. He's accomplished a lot in 8 years. Even when Congress tried to block him, he found a way in through the back door. When Republicans gave him lemons, he made so much lemonade, Beyonce started calling him Baraki with the good hair.
Baraki with the good hair. His first 2 terms ended in such a hurry. Wish he could go for 3 like my man Steph Curry.
Now, there will be no 3rd term. I can't stay forever. Besides, Daddy's got a Hawaiian vacation booked in about 223 days. But who's counting? That being said, the American people face an important decision this fall. The entire world is watching, and they look to us for stability and leadership. Now, I know some of the presidential candidates have been critical of my foreign policy. I don't want to name any names.
He's talking about Donald Trump.
But I believe it is of the utmost importance to work alongside other world leaders. That's why I signed the Iran nuclear deal. That's why we reopened diplomatic ties with Cuba. And that's why I negotiated the new trade deal called the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP.
Now hold on there, Press Dispenser. Are you saying you're down with TPP?
Yeah, you know me. Look, Jimmy, the TPP allows American businesses to sell their products both at home and abroad. The more we sell abroad, the more higher paying jobs we provide here at home. It's that simple.
So what you're saying is this trade deal will help put everyday Americans back to
work, 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 work. Put it back to work, 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 work. You put it back to
work, 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 work.
Oh no.
Now, Mr. President, since you're here, I gotta ask, have you been watching all the election coverage this week about Donald Trump?
No, but I have been watching my new favorite show. Orange is not the new black.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm gonna need you to Netflix and chill. I get it if you're a little wound up after all this time. I mean, I can't imagine what it'd be like to do the same job for 8 straight years.
Jimmy, you probably never will.
Does Obamacare cover burn?
America's best days are still yet to come.
Thank you, Mr. President, for all that you've done.
This country's on track, and that is a fact. Once you go back, you will never go back. Thank you for leading the red, white, and the blue.
That is how we slow jam the news.
Oh, yeah.
Give it up for the President of the United States, Barack Obama. We'll be right back with more.
That was funny.
That was good.
Yeah, we just figured that would be a good way to clean our palate, to just get us back to if only we
I know.
Anyway, I appreciate y'all for coming on. I truly do. Hopefully, we can get our brother Nova to come on next week, and maybe we can have a good conversation with him. But in the meantime, I love y'all. See y'all next week.
Yep.
Good time, y'all.
Another good pod. Thanks,
Good
Chip.
week.